only Friday night. It's not even dark out. And before we start the training, I just want to say that every day I read the papers, I read the news about what's happening in China with the crisis that your country is living through right now. And when I read it, I think of all of you. And so my heart is with all of you as your whole country is struggling with this big medical emergency. And I from what I understand, it's really impacting hundreds of millions of people, and probably many of you have, or all of you have felt the impact. And I just hope and pray that very, very soon everything is brought under control and people will stop getting sick and that life can return to normal.
那我知道呢，这场疫情在中国的影响面还是很大的，可能影响了成千上万的人。相信呢，在座的各位我们的家人呢，也都感受到了，也都是受到了这场疫情的影响。所以我每天都在祈祷这场疫情赶快过去，然后所有的一切运转啊情况啊，大家的生活都能回归正常。
Because the coronavirus made it impossible for Trish and Joe and me to travel to China, which we were supposed to do just in 1 week, we decided that we would try to help by offering some online training for facilitators, because we were scheduled to do a facilitator training in Beijing. And so we wanted to help in some way. So that's why this is the first of several online trainings for facilitators. And my plan is to start with the questionnaire that many of you filled out a few weeks ago when we asked you to tell us what are your biggest facilitation challenges, what skills do you most need to work on, and what are situations that you just find challenging, you don't know how to handle. And I also want to note that these are questions about facilitation in general. They're not specific to online groups, which I know many of you are doing now. For one thing, I myself don't have any experience doing online groups. All my groups have been live groups in person with people. I think you Chinese have more experience than anyone in the whole world with doing online groups. So you're the experts when it comes to online groups. So I'm going to be just talking about some of the questions that you had, that you indicated were questions that you wanted to get answers for. And I'm going to start today with the topic that many of you wrote about, which is how to work with a co-facilitator in your group. So one of the questions was, should the main facilitator and the deputy facilitator allocate their work in the group equally? And I want to say that here in America, we really don't make a distinction between the main facilitator and a deputy facilitator. We just think we're all co-facilitators and we're equal in the group. Now, of course, if one facilitator is very experienced and the other facilitator is new and inexperienced, then of course the experienced facilitator will probably take the lead in the group while the inexperienced facilitator is learning. But aside from that, we don't designate one person as the main facilitator and the other as deputy.
但是除了这一点之外呢？
Both people are co-facilitators. So yesterday, I had my group meeting of the HIV group that I've been a facilitator in for a long time. And at the very beginning, at pre-meeting, my co-facilitator said to me, I'm having very low energy today. Would you please take the lead?
今天能不能主要带领一下？
So I said, of course I would. So I did the opening, I did the closing, I led the check-in, the reading of the principles and the guidelines, and let her just rest since she was low energy that day. But that didn't mean that she was silent. When she felt like responding to someone or asking a question, she did that. It's just that I spoke more in the group yesterday than she did, but because we had that agreement at the beginning. Another question that came in was, how do you get support if you're the only facilitator in your group, if you don't have a co-facilitator, so you don't have someone that you can have a post-meeting with afterwards to talk about your feelings? And I'm not sure what arrangement you have in Attitudinal Healing China, in AHC, to support facilitators, but I think you have some sort of WeChat group where you can go and talk to other facilitators. Is that correct? Is my understanding correct? And can somebody answer? Harry has to unmute your microphone. So
yes. We have
Emily?
Yeah.
Okay, so it seems to me there's your answer. If you're the only facilitator in your group and you feel like you need some support from other facilitators, you have that group that you can go to. So I encourage you to use that resource, because maybe you not only need some support sometimes, but you have questions, or you say, I'm not sure how I handled this situation. Can somebody else give me ideas of how you might handle it? So it's a good resource for you. The next question was, how should I interrupt my co-facilitator when I feel that her facilitation is inappropriate? And another person wrote the reverse of that. What should I do when I'm interrupted and challenged by my co-facilitator when I'm facilitating? And I would say in response that it's really preferable not to interrupt a co-facilitator unless what they're doing or saying is really, really inappropriate and makes you feel really uncomfortable. So if the other facilitator has said something that you would not say, or you think was not very skillful or not very helpful to the participant, that's something for you to remember and talk about with your co-facilitator in the post meeting. It's disruptive to the group if you and your co-facilitator start to have a discussion in the middle of group about your each other's facilitation skills. So that's if you feel that this is something that's not so extreme that you need to interrupt. It's much better to wait and discuss that one-on-one in your post meeting. So one time in group that happened to me, I had a co-facilitator who was not real experienced, and one time in group, he said something to a participant that I thought was judgmental. He was letting his own judgment come out in what he said to the participant. But I did not feel that it was so extreme or so harmful to the participant that I should interrupt then. Instead, I waited till the post meeting and I discussed it with him then. Now, if whatever your facilitator, your co-facilitator is saying, if it really makes you uncomfortable, or you can see that the group is getting really uncomfortable, then your number one job is to keep the room safe for everyone, so everyone feels safe and comfortable. And so just like we have taught you in our workshops, the most effective way of saying something like this is not to point the finger and say, you just said something wrong, or you need to stop what you're saying. Instead, you can say the impact of their words and their behavior on you. So you interrupt and say, I'm feeling really uncomfortable right now with what's happening in group and how you're speaking to this person. To me, it feels like an attack, and I think we need to stop this right now. And then before I went any farther, I would say, I just want to remind all of us here why we're here. Why are we here in this group? We're here to find inner peace. And the way to do that is to be in our hearts, to not judge each other, to extend love to each other. I would probably ask the participant how he's feeling, but I would make it clear that I'm not trying to shame the co-facilitator. I'm not trying to say, you're bad, you're wrong. I'm saying, I'm uncomfortable with the way things are going now. So for the question, how should I interrupt my co-facilitator during a meeting? The easy answer is you shouldn't. You shouldn't interrupt them. You shouldn't challenge them or criticize them. You should wait till afterwards, after the meeting is over, talk about it in post-meeting. Unless you really feel, unless your heart is telling you, this is not good, this is harmful for the group isn't feeling safe, and then you should speak up, again, speaking from yourself. I feel really uncomfortable, and and we need to get this on a different track right now. Another question about co-facilitator was one that I didn't really understand very well. The question was this: what should I do if my other facilitator goes out to help a group member, but the time is up and the group does not begin? So I'm not sure what is meant. Oh, go ahead, Garfield. So it's not clear to me before the group begins why one facilitator is going out of the group room to meet one-on-one or to help another, to help a member. And then that facilitator doesn't come back and the group is supposed to start, but it doesn't start. The only reason I can envision a scenario like that is if a group member arrives and is really sick or is in some kind of crisis, and one facilitator speaks to that person individually. But otherwise, I just can't even envision why this would happen, why one facilitator would leave the room before group starts to meet separately with a member. So if I was the facilitator who was still in the room, I would start the group. You don't need to have the second facilitator come back before you start the group. So if group is supposed to start at 6 o'clock and one facilitator is gone, first of all, I would go out and say, what's going on? This person isn't even in our group. Can you leave? Can you come and join group? So if the person on the outside that's not a member of group is having a heart attack and the facilitator went to call an ambulance, that I can understand. That's a real medical crisis. But and so if it's a small problem, the facilitator, the responsibility is to the group, not to a stranger. So I would say, for me, I would feel my responsibility was to be with my group after I had helped a stranger, if I could. But in any case, the facilitator that was in the room that did not leave should have started the group at the appointed time. The group should not have had to wait 15 or 20 minutes. The group should have begun without the other facilitator. And so if something like this happened, that's a good thing for the facilitators to discuss the next time they have a post meeting after the group, and also to discuss with the group, because groups may be wondering, well, should I even go to group? Maybe it's not going to start on time. Why should I go? So did that person get an answer to her question? She gets it. Okay, good. So several questions were the following. One of them was like this: I have a somewhat pushy co-facilitator, and I always play a supporting role in group, and I fail to tell her my true feelings. Another similar question is, how can I do a better job in facilitating when the two facilitators disagree with each other? So if you have been to an attitudinal healing workshop, and I think you all have in order to be a facilitator, then you know that we have taught you a formula for communicating messages skillfully to another person without making them feel attacked or defensive. Who can remind us of what that way is? What that technique is? Who can just tell us in a few words what that technique is? I'm listening.
Hello, Carolyn. I'm Vita from Nanjing. I'm very happy to see you here. Let me briefly restate the formula. I remember there are 4 important elements: facts, feelings, reasons, the last one, requests.
Request. Excellent. I'm glad you remember it. Grace, will you please give us the first PPT? So this is exactly what our friend from Nanjing just told us about. This formula should be familiar to all of you. When you said something or when this happened, I feel or I felt, because you explain why. And then you make a request that could resolve the issue. For instance, would you be willing to do this instead of that? How can we resolve this issue together and find a way to work together?
So let's imagine that you have an issue or disagreement with your co-facilitator because your co-facilitator talks a lot in groups, responds to most people who share, and you feel that you can't even say anything because your co-facilitator is talking so much.
So you are not having a very good time working with this co-facilitator that you feel is pushy. So how can you have a meeting, a post-meeting, and discuss this issue? So here's one way you could structure your conversation. And Grace, could you give us the next slide, please? So you might say, when you responded to every member's sharing in group today, I felt frustrated because I had a couple of things I wanted to say in response, but there wasn't room for me to respond since you always responded. I was disappointed that we didn't seem to be working as a team. And maybe you say some more. Maybe you say, I feel this happens often, and I often leave group with a sense of frustration because I feel that there's not much room in the group for me to say anything because you do so often. So when you've explained when this happened, I feel this or felt this because, then you make the request that helps you resolve the issue. So one way you might say that is what we have here. Say to your co-facilitator, how can we improve our teamwork? I would like for us to have eye contact with each other during group so that when each person shares, if I want to say something, I can communicate that with you through my eyes. And if you have something you want to share with them, you can communicate that to me. You might also say, I would like us both to remember that we don't have to respond to every single thing that someone says in group. We can each ask ourselves inside whether I have something that would be useful or helpful to say. So I can't guarantee the response of your co-facilitator if you said this, but I can guarantee that the response will be better than if you go into your post meeting and say, you're pushy, you didn't give me any room to speak, I don't like working with you. So if you and your co-facilitator have instances or examples when you disagree with each other, then you need to be discussing this in your post meeting, and you need to be using this formula to communicate with each other. If you don't say these things, they stay inside of you and they build up and they get bigger, and it poisons your relationship. So I was struck by the question that said, I have a pushy co-facilitator, and I always play a supporting role, and I fail to tell her this. I fail to tell her my true feelings. And I had to wonder, why? Why do you fail to communicate this to her? Grace, could we have the next slide, please?
我们来看下一张幻灯片。
So as we know from workshops we've taken, one of the 4 responsibilities of a facilitator in attitudinal healing. So we also talk about how it's important to look at your attitudes and develop your skills and work as a team. But the very first thing that is listed is inner work. So part of this inner work means asking yourself, why do I not speak up? Why do I not tell my co-facilitator how I feel? Am I afraid she'll get mad at me? Am I afraid that she'll tell me everything that she doesn't like about my facilitation? So part of inner work is looking at our own fears and exploring what those fears are about and why we have not confronted them or why we have not taken steps to do something about those fears. So when we talk about inner work, we mean applying the attitudinal healing principles in our own life, of course, and cultivating awareness of our own emotions. So if we have an emotion of resentment or resistance to working with someone we think is pushy, we need to understand where those emotions come from, what they're based on. So for instance, if the reason that you don't discuss this with your co-facilitator is because you're afraid of reaction, then you explore, what am I afraid of? And then you listen to your own inner wisdom. What does your own inner wisdom, the wisdom of your heart, tell you that you should do in this situation? We do our inner work so that we can be peaceful inside, so that those feelings of resentment or anger against someone else don't get in the way of us being peaceful. So I know that if week after week I feel like my co-facilitator is pushy and I feel angry inside, but I don't say anything, then if I honestly look at myself, I say, I am not peaceful. To do this work, I need to be peaceful. So what does my inner wisdom tell me? How can I become peaceful? So I would turn to the inner voice of my wisdom, the wisdom of my heart. And it would say to me, Carolyn, she can't read your mind. If you want to feel peaceful here, you need to speak to her and tell her how you feel. That's the way forward. That's the way that you can find your way back to peace. So I know that sometimes it's difficult to work with a co-facilitator. We're not on the same wavelength with everybody. And so sometimes the fit isn't so great. I mean, in my many years of facilitating, I've had co-facilitators that I was on the same wavelength with, and it was really easy to work with them, and others where it was more of a challenge. So that's normal.
那我们呢，可能这个在跟其他人进行联合带领的时候，就会遇到这样的情况哈。我们并不能保证自己跟其他的所有人都在同一个波段哈，都在同一个频率。就我自己这么多年做带领人的经验来看，有的时候呢，我能遇到跟我在同一个频率的带领人啊，这样一来，我们两人间的合作呢就非常的顺利，非常的容易。但有的时候呢，遇到跟自己频率不太匹配的带领人，那可能就会挑战一些。
And part of your inner work as a facilitator is to discuss things with your co-facilitator if you do have a challenge that has come between you. If you're not on the same wavelength and you have feelings coming up that are taking your peace away, part of your inner work is to discuss that and find a way to work together.
那作为一个带领人，你想要做的，你需要所做的这个内在功课哈，就意味着当你和联合带领人之间出现了分歧、出现挑战的时候，能够去进行讨论，能够去进行沟通啊，能够找到一种方法，把这方面的真实感受表达出来，这就是我们需要做的内在功课的一个方面。
So I really encourage every one of you who has any kind of a difficulty in your group to do these steps that are listed here on this slide. Do your inner work from the first one, applying the principles, all the way through all these steps until you come to a state of more peacefulness.
因此哈，我就鼓励所有的在这个跟像这个联合带领人的联合带领的过程当中遇到挑战的朋友们啊，去做我们这一页幻灯片上所罗列出来的这个内在功课，就按照这样的步骤一步一步的进行下去，直到自己能够做到去回归更多的内在平安。
So your question of how can two facilitators better cooperate with each other, the way to do that is to communicate with each other, is to discuss what you're feeling, listen to what your facilitator is feeling, find a way to work together as a team, knowing that that's the way that you're a good facilitator is to be open to the other person and to work as a team.
那么接下来回答大家提出的这个另外一个问题，就是两个联合带领人之间如何能够更好的进行合作呢？那方式就是要大家去进行沟通哈，去做自己内在的功课，然后去运用这种建设性的沟通模板，真实的表达自己的心声，去进行沟通，然后更的平安，然后让两个人的合作也更加顺利。
So it's 10 o'clock now. We're going to take a 5-minute break so everybody can take a rest, get a cup of tea, or do whatever you need to do for 5 minutes. and then we will resume. And I'll take a few questions before I go on to the next topic, which is going to be the difference between attitudinal healing and psychotherapy.
OK， 那么接下来呢，现在已经是10点了哈，接下来我们去休息5分钟，大家都可以放松一下哈，喝点水。回来之后呢，我再回答几个相关的问题，然后去进行我们今天的另一个话题，就是心态疗愈与心理治疗之间的区别。
So please come back in 4 minutes so that we can be ready to start in 5 minutes.
好，那我们4分钟以后就回来哈，这样准备好5分钟之后准时开始。
Okay, take a break.
好，休息一下。
对。
Hi, Carolyn. Can you
Hi.
hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Do we think everybody is back? So I want to ask if there are any questions about this topic of working with a co-facilitator before we move on to a different topic.
那我想问一下，在我们继续讲下一个话题之前，大家还有没有关于如何跟联合带领人进行合作相关的问题？
Hi, Carolyn. I just found one more slide was left. Would you like to?
Oh,
Yeah, the last one.
okay. You might as well show the last one then. I forgot about it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. This is from Lucian. This is part of his presentation. So starting with our emotions, if you have strong emotions, that's an indication that there may be a need for inner work. So again, as we were saying in the last example, if you feel you have a pushy co-facilitator and you have resentment, then that strong emotion indicates to you there's a need for some inner work. There's no need to try to chase that emotion away. If you stay in your emotion, if you experience your emotion, it is going to give you information. You want to be honest with yourself and be brave to reflect on what is happening inside of you. What is your inner process? And then, as we said a minute ago, we listen to our inner wisdom, and that helps us return to inner peace. So that completes what I wanted to say. Now I'll ask again if anyone has any questions about this topic of working with the co-facilitator.
好，这样一来呢，我刚才的想表述的内容就完整了哈。那我现在再问一下大家关于如何与联合带领人合作这个方面还有没有问题？
I guess this means no. Okay. So then if there is no question about that, then I'll move on to the next subject. So there were several questions about the difference between attitudinal healing and counseling, psychological counseling or psychotherapy, and how to distinguish between them. So one thing in attitudinal healing, we're about peer support. So people supporting other people because they're going through an experience that you can relate to as another human being. Not that you can relate to as a professional or as a doctor, but just as another human being. In psychotherapy or psychological counseling, there's a completely different relationship. It's almost always, well, it's usually one-on-one. There's the psychotherapist and the patient or the client, and the psychotherapist has specialized training to help the client feel better in her life. So in our support groups, that's not our goal. We're not there to make you feel better. We're there to help each person, to support each person in finding their own way towards peace. So Grace, could you please give us the document, the next, not slide, but document. So here's a comparison of attitudinal healing with psychotherapy. And if you could bring it up, Grace, so we can see the beginning of the table. Oh, okay. So we're going to look on the left side first, the attitudinal healing group characteristics, and contrast them, compare them with characteristics of traditional counseling or psychotherapy. So one of the most striking differences is the principle of equality among all the participants, whether you're a facilitator, whether you're there for the first time, or whether you've been in the group for 5 years. We're all equal. We talk about how we're students and teachers to each other. No one is a specialist who knows how to fix another person. We're here to give mutual support because we're all the same. We're all on an equal level. And this contrasts with the role of the counselor, who has specialized training, may be a medical professional, and so that person is seen as being more knowledgeable and having answers. I go to a counselor because you're going to give me answers on how I can be happier.
I'm sorry, Carolyn, by being more senior, do you mean older?
No, not more senior, as having specialized training, being more knowledgeable because they have specialized training.
Oh, sorry.
Going down to the next block, we can see that we know that in our attitudinal healing support groups, we share feelings, we share experiences with each other. The whole point of the group is to come and really share our insights with each other. And we don't analyze those feelings or experiences, we don't judge them. Whereas a psychotherapist may analyze those feelings, may interpret them to mean a certain thing. And in attitudinal healing, as you know very well, we talk a lot about not giving advice to each other. If we're all peers, if we're all equal, how can I possibly say that I know what you need to do? How can I possibly know what's good for you in your life? Because I'm not you. So we don't give advice to each other. We don't say, you need to do this. We encourage each other to find our own best answer. On the other hand, a psychotherapist very often gives advice. And in fact, someone goes to a psychotherapist hoping to get useful advice to improve their life. In attitudinal healing, we very strongly believe that everyone has their own path in life, and everyone has their own best answers inside if they listen to their own inner wisdom. And so we try to create an environment, a supportive environment, where people feel that they can listen to that inner wisdom and have the confidence to follow it. So no one is telling them what to do. We're helping them discover their own ways. Grace, can we please see the next blocks in this table? Let's wait till the end of this and then I'll take it.
All right.
So again, we recognize that each person knows what's best for them. A psychotherapist, on the other hand, has lots of psychological training, may try to direct the person using all sorts of psychological concepts, which we don't make use of in our groups. And can we go on to the next page also, Grace, please? Thanks. So again, in attitudinal healing, our emphasis is on being open with each other. That's why we create an atmosphere of trust. We talk a lot about love, open-heartedness, and the choice that we always have between peace and fear. We trust the feelings of each other, and so we trust that each person has their own best answers. In psychotherapy, the psychotherapist may give the impression that he knows more about the feelings and what they mean than the client does himself. Okay, Grace, let's go down some more. I'm not sure if there's anything left or not, but we'll see. Yeah. So again, in our groups, we use everyday language because we're just ordinary people speaking about how we feel. A psychotherapist has the language of psychology, concepts of psychology, different categories and definitions that we don't use in attitudinal healing. In attitudinal healing, we talk a lot about being in the present moment because the past is gone. There's nothing we can do about it. The future is not here. So if we worry about the future, we lose our inner peace. And right in this present moment is the moment where we can experience peace. In psychotherapy, the client often talks a lot about the past, about their childhood and their relationship with their parents. So it's a whole different emphasis of not just being in the moment and how do I find peace now, but there oftentimes is digging up of the past and projecting into the future. So this is a brief overview of the differences, the main differences between our support groups and psychotherapy. And I see that we do have a raised hand. So let's hear from that person. Are there any questions about those differences?
I noticed that there are many different schools of psychological counseling and psychotherapy. And so some of them, indeed, they have the, contrast differences. I mean, from attitudinal healing, just as you shared with us. But there are some schools of psychotherapy or psychological counseling. They do have similarities or overlaps with attitudinal healing.
That's correct. That's correct.
Pender mentions a few of psychological terms. I'm not sure if I can get them right. He says there are some schools, psychological schools like some post-modernism, like a focus. There's a psychological school called focus. And there's like a humanism focused psychology. They all have some overlaps with attitudinal healing, similarities. Particularly, there's one, the Gestalt methods. They also emphasize a lot on the present. They may mention the past and the future, but they always come back to the present, how you are doing in the present moment. So what Pender wants to share with us is that more and more he realized that there is this trend, this tendency, that there are more and more similarities between attitudinal healing approach and psychology approach. They, particularly in nowadays, many of the clinical practice of psychology, they have also started to emphasize more on the present moment. This is what he wants to share with us.
I think that's a good thing. When I was younger, I was in psychotherapy and I went for many years and it didn't help me very much. When I came to attitudinal healing, that's where I found what I needed. So I welcome if more traditional psychotherapy is becoming more similar to attitudinal healing. So I want to go on to the last couple questions around this topic of psychotherapy and psychologists who might be members of your support group. So someone wrote, as a facilitator, how do I respond to challenges from some group members who are professional psychologists and sometimes get pushy? So in the early days of attitudinal healing support groups, sometimes Jerry would remind people coming into the group, we leave our degrees and we leave our occupations at the door. Jerry himself was a child psychiatrist, and so he had the interest of many other psychiatrists and psychologists and social workers who knew that he was working with children and they wanted to come and see how he did it. And so he would introduce the group or begin the group by reminding us, we're not here in our professional capacity. We're not here as doctors, psychologists, lawyers, or anybody else. We're just here as human beings. So that's one thing you could do too. At the beginning of your meeting, you could just, with a smile, remind everybody that we're here just as humans, here to support other humans. And it can be particularly difficult for psychologists not to give advice in a group because they're used to being directive like that. So again, you can say at the beginning of every group, I'm going to remind everybody that we're not here to give advice, that we're here to support each other in their own path. And you could even say, again with a smile, I know how hard that is for psychologists, so that's why I'm just reminding you and all of us. It sounds from the question that this is maybe a situation that repeats itself, that the psychologist is pushy more than one group. And so maybe it would be appropriate for the facilitator to speak to the psychologist one-on-one outside of group. Maybe it would be helpful to print out this list that we just saw of the differences and give that to the psychologist to help this person understand more clearly what the differences are. And of course, we don't want to make the psychologist feel wrong or feel shamed in group, and that's why I suggest that if this is an ongoing issue, that maybe the facilitator wants to talk to the psychologist outside of group one-on-one. Another question was that sometimes participants have an in-depth issue or in-depth problem that seems to need psychotherapy or psychological counseling. And it's important that we let everyone realize our attitudinal healing support group is not a substitute. It's not a replacement for psychological counseling or psychotherapy if a person really needs that. We're not a substitute for treatment for mental illness or for addiction. That needs specialized treatment, and that's not what we provide.
需要专业的治疗。
But over the years, we have had many people in our support groups who go to psychotherapy on their own and get that help from a mental health professional, but also come to the support group and see that as complementary. They sort of supplement each other. And another question that came in was, let's say that member A is having strong emotions and member B is a professional psychologist and says that she can help member A one-on-one. So member A accepts the offer, and the question is, what should the facilitator do?
Sorry, Carolyn, you said A accepts the offer?
Uh-huh. And then the question is, what should the facilitator do in this situation? So I would say the first thing is it's no longer appropriate for the psychologist to come to group. For a psychologist and her client to be in the same support group is not appropriate. Also, if the psychologist said to member A during group, I can help you, I'm a psychologist, why don't you come to see me, I can help you, that's not appropriate inside the group. So in that situation, the facilitator should say, this is a conversation that the two of you could have outside of group. When group is over, please have this conversation if you like, but it's not appropriate for us to have in group. So in this situation, let's say that they have decided to work together. So the psychologist now has a new client. Why do I say that it's not appropriate for both of them to be in group together anymore? Who has an opinion about that?
Is it possible because in this way the participant A will realize that her psychotherapist also have issues, emotional issues. Maybe this way it will discredit the psychotherapy work. In fact,
yeah. So first of all, if I were the psychotherapist, I would not speak freely if I had clients in the group with me. It's a completely different relationship. Now they have a professional relationship, right? Here's the psychotherapist. This person A is paying money to the psychotherapist to go have sessions, psychotherapy sessions. So it's not an equal relationship. It's a professional relationship, and it's not appropriate to both be in the group anymore. Also, the client goes to see this psychotherapist, maybe says many things because she's alone, one-on-one with her. Maybe some of those things she has not said in group yet. If the psychotherapist is in group, this person may feel, she knows things that the other people don't know, and maybe she'll say something about me that I don't want her to say. So it's just an uncomfortable situation because they have this outside relationship. As you know, in our groups, we have a rule that married couples can't be in the same group. because again, one might not feel comfortable saying something about the other if they're there. Maybe they had a fight and they both come to group, they're angry and they can't feel comfortable to really express themselves. So we try to have people in group who don't have outside relationships. It makes it cleaner inside group. Can you think of any other reasons why it would not be a good idea for both these people to stay in group?
Something like, in our country, in China, we have certain like ethical principles for a psychotherapist. So it is not suggested that a psychotherapist and his or her clients to be in the same environment like this, like attitudinal healing. It may break the principle of confidentiality.
Yeah.
And Liu Jin just said, if the married couple are in the same group, it also break the principle of confidentiality.
It's much more likely. That's true. That's true.
Also, for the psychotherapist, in the support group or in his therapy, when the therapy work, he or she witnessed all the problems of his or her client. So it also might not be comfortable for the psychotherapist to be completely vulnerable, in a support group.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are many, many reasons why that should now become a separate relationship that's not part of the group anymore. So we have 10 minutes left in our training, and I want to ask if there are any particular other questions that you would like to ask in these last 10 minutes.
Her question is that in our support group, if there's enough time and permissions asked first, so is it okay for other group members to respond to a certain member's sharing?
Yes, we have always said that it's perfectly appropriate for other group members to respond to someone's sharing. Maybe someone said something and you have strong feelings and you say, oh, I'm really, really touched by what you said, or I really feel for you in what you're going through right now. So expressing themselves in a response is very appropriate. It's fine. There is no rule that says you cannot speak. Only one person can speak, and then only the facilitator can respond. That's just not what attitudinal healing is about.
Okay, so shall we move on to the next
Let
question?
me just say one more thing. Okay. What we do practice, though, is letting the person finish everything that they want to say before anyone else responds. So we're not interrupting. When I'm facilitating, if someone says something during their share that I want to respond to, when they're finished with their share, I always stay quiet to see if any group member wants to say something. Because this is their group, what's really important is their interaction with each other and their exchanges with each other, not what I think or what I have to say. So let's say someone shares, another member has something to say in response, and then maybe I don't need to say what I wanted to say, or maybe I do. But I always let the group members have a chance first before I speak. Okay, I see another participant has their hand raised.
Yeah, let me see.
Lily, hi Lily.
Oh, so what if one of the participants got triggered and felt very angry or very sad? What should we do?
上次有一个组员，他就是觉得就是我的带领有一些引导性，其他的组员呢，就是因为他是最后一位，然后他就说，我非常的愤怒啊，我现在就不想说话，我得静默，或者我想让别人来带领。啊，然后后来他的情绪就是一直都很激动，然后我们会后会的时候，他也要求要参加，然后就是说，难道你们都不接纳我吗？就是一直在这个愤怒的情绪中，
For example, last time when she was hitting, one of the participants who spoke the last, 也就是说是一个小组成员，他甚至都想要参加 到这个会后会当中来。
是的，后来那个因为考虑到他的安全，当时我们也是让他参加了会后会，然后他在会后会就说了20分钟他自己的事儿，我们等他说完了，然后稍微平静了，然后他退出了，我们才开始的会后会。然后伙伴就是说让他平静，说非常重要哈，就是说可能在那天晚上我们就是挽救了一个生命或怎么样，他当时就非常有一些极端的想法。
您说谁有极端的想法？是说那个成员吗？
愤怒者，对，愤怒的人。
哦，听起来呢，就是这个小组成员呢，特别需要被别人听到。一旦他感觉到自己被听到了，然后他就平静下来了，也能够离开了。听起来是这样的。那如果要是我的话呢，可能会采取这样的做法，就是在小组活动的过程当中，我会对这个就是在这个情况发生的时候，在小组过程当中，我就会对这个成员说，我能够看到你对于我有强烈的这个有不安的情绪，然后呢，我非常愿意在就是其他的时间或者小组活动结束之后，去倾听一下你的想法。那如果说这个成员同意了同意了说是的，我愿意跟你单独谈一谈。那么在小组活动结束之后呢，我会先找到我的联合带领人，去跟他征求一下他的看法，说你是否愿意先稍等一下，让我先跟这位小组成员沟通结束，我们再进行我们的会后会。那如果说这个小组成员他的问题只是针对您一个人的，在我看来呢，就是您一个人去跟他单独的进行这次沟通，比2个带领人同时跟他进行沟通更为合适一点，除非是他对另一位带领人也有意见，也有想法。那如果他只是对您一个人有想法的话呢，就是您私底下和他单独沟通，这是比较合适的做法。那么既然呢，在最后结束的时候，他也平静下来了，那我相信您肯定是确实有倾听到他。我相信呢，您在过程当中也有对他进行回放，让他感受到自己被听到了这确实是正确的做法，并且听起来呢，您也没有说因为这件事情就产生心理防御这也是非常棒的。
好的，那个非常感谢啊。我就再说一点啊，就是说，其实他没有分享，是别人分享完了，他这个愤怒就出来了。所以呢，他当时就是说，那回应我的，请换一个人。所以我们小组也尊重他，就换了一个人。之后呢，他是整个小组，他说：“你们难道都不接纳我吗？你们就是好像他那个愤怒是他。”是他自己的一个情绪，所以是其实是我们4个人，最后又多听了20分钟，然后他平静。不过我收到了，就是说要进行一个核对，然后呢要让他感到被听到，我也都收到了，感谢。
那如果说呢，在小组活动当中，您能够看到他有强烈的，能够看出来，如果能够看出来他有强烈的情绪的话呢，其实也可以先请他去分享。比如说，如果能够看到这个人他情绪已经很强烈了，就可以先让他分享，因为我们在小组活动当中这个分享也没有说特定的顺序。如果说这个人能够看到他情绪很强烈的话，就可以先从他开始。那我能够看到还有5、6位朋友也都举手有问题。我们今天呢没有那么多时间回答问题了，那我就鼓励大家呢把这些问题写下来发给张晶 Grace 会翻译出来发给我们。下一次呢这个在线的培训是 Trish 带领的，Trish是在3月份带领下一次的培训，他会在这个培训当中把大家的问题都回答一下。张晶亲爱的，就是我们今天培训结束之前，你还有什么想说的吗？
我本身没有，刚才老师说的这部分，大家可以在我们有56个群里面艾特我，把问题发给我，我再转发给老师。其他我没有要说的。谢谢老师和邱佳。
然后接下来呢，我想隆重感谢一下我们的亲爱的张晶 Grace 她组织了我们的这场培训，然后呢，她把每一个人的问题还有我的这个PPT 都翻译过来了都是他在做翻译工作，翻译过来，然后我们今天的培训才能够 顺利的进行，所以要隆重的感谢一下 Grace， 然后还要隆重感谢一下我们的这个姬老师哈，海宝大哥，他是我们的这个技术魔法师啊，我们在这个技术方面，就是这个网络技术方面出现了很多的问题，然后他充分发挥他的这个魔法魔力，把所有的问题都解决了。
So we couldn't have done this training without him either.
所以如果没有他的话呢，今天的培训也没有办法进行。当然了，如果要是没有邱佳的话，我们这个今天的培训也没有办法进行哈。实在是难以想象，如果没有邱佳这个我们的中国的声音的话，我们这一切要怎么开展起来？然后呢，最重要是要感谢今天在座的各位哈，来参加我们这次培训。其实我心里特别盼望能够看到大家每一个人的脸哈。我也听到了有几个熟悉的声音哈。我呢的心与大家同在，我的怀抱向大家敞开，盼望着我们再一次的相聚。
So I have one last thing I want to say.
然后
What's that?
刚才谁说？
下一次是什么时候 ？When is next time?
Next training.
So Grace and you have a date with Trish, I think.
会在群里头说。
3月15。
好吧，下一次会在群里通知的，这个就先不在这儿说了，好吧
？Yeah, they will be informed. It's
okay.
It's in the middle of the March. It's in the
middle
of
March. Yeah. Middle of March.
那最后呢，我想对每个人说的是，